Hi, welcome back again. Right now we're up to the level in the series here, which is to do with lettrology and thinking. So I'm going to tick that. Now, lettrology is a trademarked word that I created. And I created it because we haven't really looked at the way in which letters are used in our everyday language at a level of consciousness. When we speak, we have an idea and the words seem to form together in good constructive sentences to get that information out. Now, all the series I've done so far has not been practiced. Each one of these right now is a straight out run without me having to go and refer to anything or notes that I've taken. Just a sequence of ideas that I put together. So lettrology and thinking, this word I've created it, is like letterology, the study of letters, but I've taken the E out. Just as people who created the word numerology has got no B in it, numberology. The word ology, or the part of the word ology, means study of. So numbers, study of. Letters, study of. So lettrology then, without the E, is what I have created because of the way in which I'm going to get into here. Now these two together are mind-blowing. In truth, knowing lettrology and numerology, you can now predict the future. I am not having you on here, this is fact. I've been able to prove that to people over a long time, and I've used it to do a lot of developmental work in helping people achieve ways of overcoming problems, of overcoming a problem full stop that might be stopping everybody from going ahead, and how to avoid things in the future by knowing about them before they happen. And proving that by going back into the past in people's lives and identifying things that have happened, which I mentioned earlier in a seminar on your future here, as to how to identify those particular times using the formulas that can be created from these 2 points here. So I'm going to go into lettrology at the moment because we all know the language. So if I asked you, without thinking too hard, how many letters are in the English language? You see, some people know there's 26. Other people are a bit bewildered and they're not sure. But you can all do it, right? You can all say the alphabet, can't you? You can say it in sequence. We learned it at school. Do you remember the song? A, B, C, D, E, F, G, and so on as it goes through. So you can say the alphabet off by heart. And if I said go and do it, you probably could. If I said do it backwards, it might stump you and slow you down. Although some people have practiced it and can do just that. So these are the things we use without really thinking about it. So I'm going to go back and talk to you about thinking, not go back, but ask you to think for a moment. Now I've written down here, you think with language. If we didn't have language inside our heads, we could not think comprehensively. We would know food, run, fear, friend, safety, those sorts of things. But we wouldn't be able to put it into words. We would just feel it and understand there's a need for something. So we think with our brain, but our brain does not think. When I heard those words some years ago, it made sense to me. Of course. On its own, the brain doesn't do anything. They've got Albert Einstein in different places all over the world where they've broken his brain up to go and study it. But Albert's not there. That's part of his brain, and it doesn't do anything on its own. So when you're looking at genius, everybody's a genius. Because if I compared you to a rock, you're smart. Yet some people don't know about how to expand their ability to do things in life. And you are at the top of the food chain because you're human. So if I said the word think then is made up of different letters. I could use, for example, the word dog. And using that word there, you can see a picture of a whole variety of dogs in your mind. But what if I changed the letters around backwards and just went God? Same letters, different picture. So you can see that the way in which the letters run create a different image in the mind. And it's not picking on particular things like a fun game. It's literally the way it works. So I'll just take that out for the moment, only because I want the whiteboard for other things. So when you think and speak, you're thinking with language here, and you're using words and the letters that create up those words to be able to put something together fluently, just like I'm doing now, just coming straight out. Here I'm looking at an image here that I put up on the board, which is that's like that. It's a hieroglyph from the Egyptians on the wall, the hieroglyphs that were carved on the walls. This particular thing here was the head of an ox. If you look at it, there's an ox's head and a yoke across its shoulder, so it could be mounted on here. It could plough a field or pull a cart full of goods to take the farmer's goods to the market, for example. Now, if the farmer wanted to take some watermelons or some potatoes to the market, he might be able to carry half a sack because it's pretty heavy. But you can load a trailer with an ox at the front and cart a whole lot. So the idea of the ox was it meant something happens very quickly to change the environment very quickly. Ploughing a field with an ox with a great big plough behind it and pushing it through is faster than a man can with a wooden spade trying to dig up the earth and plant potato seeds or potato pieces to make the plants. So when you're looking at it, this symbol here with the yoke across its shoulder, which is the ox, is called Aleph and Alpha. Alpha is its name, Aleph or Alpha, meaning the ox meant a change in the living conditions very quickly. The Phoenicians and the Romans changed it sideways more, and then the modern A was created, which is the ox down here. Now, in an earlier video I mentioned about the name David, and that every David in the world at age 27 has a major change in their life or living conditions. How is that so? If it's so, and it is, because I can prove that and have proved it, that being so, how does that happen? How is it that every David in the world at age 27 has a major change in their living conditions, as depicted by this symbol here? Because the symbol represents an idea from an animal that meant something, and it's almost like shorthand in pictures. If that's so, let's look at some other letters. Look at the letter S, for example. Now, if you were to say, what does that look like? Well, an S in itself has a future and a past. It can see this way, it can see that way. And it's got a round bum. So on a table, the letter S would be quite wobbly. So it's kind of unstable. It's an unstable thing with what it's seeing, and it's unstable because of conditions of the past. Now, the back end of the S represents the back end, or what has happened in the past, with all the information that they've had back here in their life gets stored in here in the back side of the S. When a person like a Susan, for example, which is quite a sensitive name, as a Susan gets older, they become stronger and stronger and stronger, because the more information they have in their ballast down here, a bit like a yacht, when it's got the great big the lead weight below it, basically on the thing they call it, forgot the name, underneath the yacht to keep them stable. This particular part becomes a weight to stabilise the S, so when you try and push it around, it no longer gets lost or wobbles off. So the S is an emotional letter. And the letter U, for example, if I was to say, excuse me, that when you're looking at a letter, it has a centre, it has a top and a bottom, it has a front and a back. The letter U then has a top, a bottom, a centre, a front and a back. Therefore, the letter U, and you're looking at it, says, I am a cup, and I can put things in here. In other words, the letter U is called the letter that attracts things to it. When something attracts something to it, I don't know if you've ever done this, if you've ever had a nice red wine, you pop the cork and you let it breathe, and you pour it into the glass, and you sit there, and from out of nowhere comes a fruit fly. Where was he before? But they're attracted to the vapours or the smells that come off of that red wine. I remember being at picnics when I was a child, and you'd be biting into a toffee apple or an apple, and if you had your apple there, a bee would come and want to take a piece of the apple and say, a bee, shoo, shoo, shoo. The bee picked up that you had something that it was looking for in the form of the juices or the foods that it wants to have are in that apple, the nutrients, the succulents. So in nature, things attract things to it, and the letter U says, I will attract. That's what it means. Then I've got over here the letter K. Now the letter K stands strong. It has a past and a future. But the letter K says, I am open to the heavens. I am open to what is below me. I am open to what's in front of me. The letter K is everywhere. It means daydreamer. It means inventor. It means a person who thinks differently than most other people. So when you start to look at people called Karen or Carl with a K, anything that's got a K as a letter up front of their name, they're a daydreamer. And it's something they've got to learn to control. Letters are fascinating. And when you put them together, like the word speak, which is made up of individual letters, you've got a K at the back end and you've got an emotional letter at the front. It's almost as if the word speak says, I'm emotionally motivated to speak about things which I find fascinating or worthy of speaking about. The word came from where? Who created these words? This is where it gets fascinating. Even this list of titles I've got here, each one talks about stuff like this. So thinking is done with the brain. Thinking is done with the use of language, because if you have no language, you cannot think. And the other interesting point is that language here from one place on the planet and language here that's different from another place on the planet, they are languages, but they're not the same. So can people communicate? No. Because one person has been taught it's a tool to think with. This person's been taught with a tool to think with, but they're two different tools. So therefore they are not the same. When it comes down to language, language is the key that helps people take their ideas to manufacture their world around us. And the world that we live in has been based on thinking using language. So thinking, speaking, words and letters are what I study in the word Lettrology I've done here, because with your name tells a story. And every time a person is given a baby a name at birth and speaks to that baby often gets one word more than any other words at any given time when that baby is in an emotional state. If it's upset, frightened, sore tummy, got gripe or anything else that's affecting the child, or it's hungry, or it's just whatever. Mother or somebody picks the baby up and they speak the baby's name over and over and over. The baby does not know it's a name. It knows it is a sound because it doesn't know language. And the sound that is always there, its first name, is attached then in the brain as it's developing. When I mentioned the amygdala in the brain before, it attaches there and gets stored in there as information so that this child associates that sound with emotion. And that is why your first name is extremely important. Some people call me Pete when my name is Peter. I was named after a movie, A Man Called Peter. And my mother wanted me to be like the storyboard, which it was about a Christian man. And she wanted me to be a preacher and preach to the world. Well, I kind of am. I preach to the world a lot of science and knowledge in this field. But a name makes a person what they are. And you will attract to you what you are, not what you want. So in the work that I do here, I will take the lettrology of a person's name, break it down, and tell you what's happening at every stage of your life. Now, in my seminar work and the teaching I do, I show what part of the brain does that, how it does that, and how neuron cells in different parts of the body, especially in your amygdala, the neuron cells in the part of your brain that makes decisions, doesn't switch on, switch off. It switches on, and depending on what switched it on, can stay on for quite some time. In fact, it's now been found that they don't just switch on and off like other brain cells do, or cells in the body. Once they switch on the amygdala, they can cause a person to hold a thought for a long time. And because your name is so embossed and engraved in part of your body called the amygdala, it's very emotional. And I will respond in a noisy room. When somebody says the name Peter, I'll just hear my name and I'll spin it around among the hubble and bubble that's going on. Even if a person calls me Peter, in short, Peter, P-E-D-E-R, not T, Peter and Peter are different sounds. So when people call me by my real name, Peter, I really do respond to it very quickly compared to Peter or Pete. And if somebody says Pete, I say it's Peter. So having a knowledge then of language and what we can do with it, I can now take lettrology and stretch it out in a timeline and tell you about everything that's going to happen in your life based on its formation and what each letter means, because every letter has a meaning. And when you put them together, you create them together, and you can now start to tell things about the future quite easily, or identify things in people. Why some people are more like criminals than others, why people are more successful, what groups of numbers and letters make people more successful naturally. And that part there, when you learn about that, you think, oh my God, that's why Roberts are successful. That's why Andrews are very clever. I was in a prison at one stage teaching transition prisoners, this is in maximum security, teaching them how to take their rubbishy type waste, convert it into products for growing plants with, because I have a knowledge on fertilizers, quite an extensive knowledge. And I was showing them how to do things in the prison. And during the course of that time there was a TV show that I had done, it was a late show, and it was an 0900 where people ring up to get answers to the mystical things of life. They wanted me in their show because I could do this stuff, which was almost magical and mystical. And it showed at midnight and went on for about an hour and a half. Anyway, during the course of my time in this prison area, I went and had a cup of coffee with the two guards in their little hut in the yard. And as I was sitting down and having a chat together, and you're going to have to excuse my language a little bit, you'll invent what I'm saying though. One guard said to the other one, I was watching bloody telly last night, and this wanker gets up and he's on a bloody whiteboard doing people's names, what a fucking idiot, you know. And the other guy just like this. And I thought, that fucking idiot was me. He had no idea who I was. And his name was Doug. And I said, up here, what do I do? I said, bugger it. I said, Doug? He goes, yeah. I said, you know that wanker? And he used the F word. You know that wanker on the telly last night who's putting people's names up on a whiteboard? He goes, yeah. I said, you're looking at him. Doug, he was just stunned. He said next, I've got my boot in my mouth, haven't I? And I said, no, you just don't understand. I then told him about his makeup by his name Doug, and I said, now you are not allowed to tell me the name of any prisoner. He said, nah. I said, give me the name of a prisoner. He said, Andrew. I said, pedophile. And I said, give me another one. He said, Brian. And I said, with or without the Y? He said, B-R-I-A-N. And I said, oh, he's really nice guy up to your face. But I said, he's a real bastard when he wants to be. He said, how the hell are you doing this? It's because I've studied this particular field, which I created for some time now. I can do the same thing with your name. I can do the same thing with anybody's name. That's why I knew in 2015, 1 year out, I looked at it because somebody asked me who was going to be the next president of the United States after the election. I said, what election? American one. I went, oh. And I looked at Hillary and I looked at Trump and I went, Trump's going to win. And they laughed at me. They absolutely did. I said, Trump's going to win hands down. Now, that was on the 15th, I believe, of November of December of 2015. So I put a story up about it. And as the time went through, people were saying, oh, you're an idiot, it's not going to win. He's just, he's a stupid guy. And I got to a point where I got quite angry at the pressure I was getting from people. So I put up a whiteboard, and this is what I did. I said, well, this is what's going to happen. And literally, I'm going to repeat what I did on that screen to you right now. I said, here's Clinton and here's Trump. And I said, Clinton's up here and Trump's down here. She's winning, she's higher in the scale of things than he is. And I said, however, it's now July. And I said, by the time we get toward the election time, right here in November, I said, this is what's going to happen. Right before the election, I'm saying this in July, right before the election, this is what's going to happen. Trump's going to get here and he's going to go whoop up here, and she's going to go down here. I then said, I don't know what it is, but it will happen. I got laughed at, and then that happened. Now, how did I know that? I was reading the knowledge I have here. This is what I teach. Yes, can I tell who's going to win the election this year in America? Yeah, Trump's going to win it. I've already written a story that somewhere that Biden's going to fall out, and so is the other guy. Joe Biden and Sanders or Bernie. So I said they were going to fall out, and they certainly have gone. One's gone already, and he will win again. I also know what's going to happen next year in that particular area, but this is for other types of training videos. The stuff that I'm doing here is factual, it's scientific. I have taught people. I don't think they'll ever catch up to me, but it certainly is an ongoing lifetime study. I put 40 years into this, so it's a long time. But anyone can learn it, and I've even got software now that can do that. And if you've ever seen the TV series Person of Interest, fantastic TV series, look it up, Person of Interest, all about a fantastic computer. It's futuristic. My software is more advanced than that software. So it's kind of fun to know that there's stuff out there now which is scientific and works, which is possibly the new, people say that the greatest invention is sliced bread, or the mousetrap, or the computer software we've got now, or the printing press, which was really considered the greatest invention of last century, the printing press. But the printing press uses words and language. And I've taken those words and language and now can see right through the barrier of time, anywhere into the future. Kind of cool, isn't it? So I love what I do. I'm going to talk about the numerology in a moment, and we might even talk about the number of the beast. That's the revelations in the Bible. I study all sorts. I do not belong to any religious cult at all. And the word cult means basically belief in a thing unseen. So Christianity is a cult. I don't belong to any of it. I understand it though. I've read about it and learned about it and was as a child involved in it, but no longer. And so therefore I'm using these two together to show you that there's a truth here and there is something greater than us. We just don't know it yet because we don't have the eyes to see. Catch you in the next video clip. Hope you're enjoying this. I am.